I've got my lumber final dimension down to 3/4 of an inch, and before I run them through the joiner for the last time to get one straight edge, I've marked out with chalk each one of the pieces. Again, 2 tables can be a little confusing. I have a couple spare boards to do test cuts on and so forth with the tenons. I've got 3 pieces that'll make up the top. These actually all came out of one board. I've got all 4 side rails coming out of one board and one top coming out of 2 boards, or one board. I've also got another board here that's marked out, and 2 of them are drawer sides, or the drawer fronts themselves. And actually I'm going to cut the rails and the drawer fronts out of this one board. And there's some real nice figuring here, that's why I'm using these for the drawer faces. And then I have the two rear rails right here. I'm not going to be able to completely get rid of the little bit of the sapwood that's right here, but that's okay. Those will be on the back underneath the rail, and you really won't see them that much. So I'm happy with the layout. So the next thing to do, like I said, is to joint one edge straight, mill these down to the final width, and then cut them to the final length. Well, I've got all of my pieces milled down to final width. I've got the rear rails on here right now. These need to be 15 3/4 inches. Basically what I have is 14 inches to the outside of the tenons, or I should say the inside of the tenons, and then 7/8 inch tenons. All I'm going to do is just square up one corner, flip it over, put down the stop, and then cut 2 pieces out of this. I always want to make sure I keep the reference face against the fence, which is what I put up against the joiner. Now that I've got all the sides and back rails cut to final length and width, I'm going to start cutting the tenons on these to fit in the leg mortises. What I've done is I've taken one of the boards and I've marked out all the measurements, and for the side rails and the back rails are all going to be the same size, so I should be able to do this in a production-like setting. So again, I've marked out on one of these exactly where I want the cutoffs for the tenons on this piece to be. And I'm going to go over the table saw now, cut a test piece, and make sure that I'm good. I've got a test piece on here. I've got the blade set at 3/16 of an inch. On this particular one, I'm just going to eyeball it. I need this tenon length to be about 7/8 of an inch. I'm just going to run it through and make sure I'm at about 3/16. Alright, well I got it right the first time. That's 3/16 of an inch deep. So what I've done here for the side rails anyways, is I've set up a stop block. I'm just going to run these through all 4 sides like this, and then I'll cut the cheeks. I'm going to cut the cheeks of the tenons using a tenoning jig. Actually, I got this for Christmas. It's the first time I've used it, so I hope it comes out all right. First thing I want to do is I want to make sure that when this is locked down, that this is square to the table, which it is, and also this rear fence is square to the table. So when I put this on there, it'll cut true. Next thing I want to do is I want to lower the height of the blade a little bit, so it's just a little bit below this kerf I cut earlier. I'll put this in here, and I've transferred the marks. I need to cut 3/16 of an inch off the side. Make sure that's in there nice and tight. I'll push it up into here, and actually I want to cut on the outside, so I'll loosen this up a little bit. Adjust this out. Actually, I want to make these a little fat because I will trim them down with a shoulder plane so they fit exactly. So I've got it right, a little bit large, so tighten that down and then make the first cut. And all I do is flip the piece around, lock it back down, and cut the other piece. And that's about right where I want it. It's nice and tight. It's going to leave me a little bit of room to shave those off. So I'm ready to cut. Jig made quick work of the tenon cheeks. I still need to cut these shoulders, so I've raised the blade up to 3/4 inch above my sliding table here. I've left this stop exactly where it was before, so my shoulders are going to match exactly here. When I get to the side rails, I know exactly where I put this before, so it's going to be repeatable, and I can cut these nice and even. That's what I'm looking for, is a nice crisp shoulder all the way around on 4 sides. Now I'll just take this over the bandsaw and cut these off. Now that I've got the tenons cut on the side rails and the rear rail, again, I've laid these out, I've marked them to death. I've also taken these and I flipped them around and did this and that and the other thing. And I matched them up for the best color match. A lot of these came from the same board, but even different sides of the board can have different colors. So after playing around with them for a little while, I decided that this was the best match. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, I'm going to match them up to these. I'm going to mark all these, you know, that this is the rear rail for table number 1, again 2 tables, and exactly where it goes and which mortise it goes in, because all these are going to be hand fit to that mortise because I cut them all a little bit big. And I'll be cutting those and trimming them with my shoulder plane, and also a chisel on some of the inside pieces right here, and of course a little bit on here, and a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit whatever it takes to make these get a nice tight fit. Well, after I have all my sides marked out, and you know, for example, I've got A and A here, I want to fit each one of these again, which is going to take some time, to each leg individually. Now when I put this in here, it's pretty tight. Like I said, I left it a little strong from the tenoning jig. That is way too tight. So I should be able to take just a pass or two with my shoulder plane almost there. And since these are going to have a reveal on this side, it doesn't really matter which side I take it off of, the extra material, as long as I always do it on the same side all the way around. So I'm going to be doing it all on the inside. Well, after about 4 or 5 minutes of fiddling with it, taking this, doing the shoulders and the cheeks on this, and this is exactly the fit I'm looking for. I can press it in by hand. It'll fit in there. And again, I've got a nice tight joint all the way around. I just have to do this a bunch more times to both tables. It's going to take a while, but you know what? I really like just sitting here in my shop. I usually have my music on and fiddling with stuff like this rather than trying to do it mass production style. To me, that's what it's really all about. I've got all the side rails and back rails fitted to the individual legs. Now I'm getting ready to cut out the front rails and the drawer faces. My final dimensions for both the, I should say on the side rails and the back rails, was 5 7/8. So what I've got here is I've got two pieces of wood that are 6 1/4, which gives me an 1/8 inch slop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out 3/4 inch off the top and 3/4 inch off the bottom of each piece, and that's going to be the two front rails with the drawer in the middle. And what I want to do first is I just want to make a triangle on here and then mark these 1, 1, 1, because again, as I've been saying many times, two pieces, it can get confusing. And I'll just cut 3/4 inch off each side on the table saw. So now, just like before with the side rails and the back rail, I'm going to fit each one of these front rails to the corresponding mortise. Again, these are fat, so I'm going to just take it all off the back, because again, there's an 1/8 inch reveal. I just need to fit each one of these so it's just right and just nice and tight. Here's the piece with all the tenons fitted, each mortise and the legs. Very square, came out very tight. I still have room for glue, but the mortises are nice and tight to the tenons. Very important, this is square in the front where the drawer is going to fit in. So the next step to this is going to be cut out the parts from the assembly underneath that will hold the drawer slides, and then glue up. Well, after looking at the plans and seeing how the drawer assemblies are, I decided I'm going to do that after I glue the table up, or the legs and the rails anyways. I've already spent some time. I scraped down all the faces of the board, the front and back, ran a hand plane over the edges to get rid of any mill marks, and put a 220 sandpaper on it, and broke some of the edges. Later on, when I do the finishing process, I will be raising the grain on this, so I need to go over it again. So it's not the final sand, but it's very smooth right now and very close. So I've got all my stuff ready to do the glue up here. And because of the way these pieces are inlaid here, these are not going to lay flat. So I put some shims underneath there, so when I glue this up, I can hold it flat. Also, when I put the glue on, I'm not going to be using glue on the tenons themselves. I'm going to be putting them inside the mortises, because when I put these in and fit them in, I don't want the glue, because these are, again, a very good friction fit. I don't want the glue scraping up here and squeezing out on the sides. So let's get to it. I don't need to put a whole lot of pressure on here because, again, a good friction fit. I just want to make sure that I close the joints up nice and tight and that it's flat here. Just going to measure across here real quick to make sure I'm square. That's good. Well, here's the two tables all glued up. They came out very nice, very square. Now I'm getting ready to start working on the assemblies for the drawer guides. I'm getting ready to install the first part of the drawer support system. And that's going to be a piece that goes across here. Oh, that's pretty tight. It's going to bridge across here, and I want this to be exactly 1/16 of an inch off this bottom rail. So I've got a little shim here. It's exactly 1/16. Just going to put it up against there until I get it nice and tight. I'm going to glue it and I'm going to put a brad right there to hold it in place. So that's going to be some glue to hold it on in there. And that's going to be long grain to long grain because it'll go right up against here. So on the back, I made a little gauge here. What that's going to do, I'm going to put this down here so it levels that out. That should be the same as what it is right there. The next piece I'm going to put in here is a side rail, and I've cut these to fit in between the two legs and wide enough so they're that same 1/16 inch reveal right here. I'm just checking that against the shim so they're exactly the same rails. I want to have a 1/16 inch reveal all the way around this. So just put a little glue on here. Again, I'm in a long grain to long grain situation. Don't need a lot. Just enough to hold it in place. Slide it in there. And secure that with a couple brads. Now I'm going to put in some additional supports right here. And these are going to go in right here, and this is what I'm actually going to attach the tabletop to. Again, I've got a long grain situation. Don't mind this rocking. My garage floor is horrible. I know this table's flat because it's on my table saw and it doesn't rock at all. But I'm just going to put that right there, and then a couple brads again. Also, I'm going to do to make sure this is level with that top piece. Just going to put that board right there. It's even with the top board. The last thing I need to do for the drawer support structure is this piece right up here. And it's just going to go on the top like so. And all that's going to do is when you open the drawer, it's going to prevent it from tipping down. Adds no structural strength to the piece whatsoever. I'm going to be gluing this in. It's going to be end grain on here, but again, I'm not worried about it. I'll put some pin nails and I'll toenail them in this way to add a little bit of strength. But again, you know, once the tabletop's on and screwed down, this will be tight up against that. And again, absolutely no structural strength is needed on that piece at all. Well, here's the finished table itself. I have all the drawer slides in. All I have to do now is make the drawer, finish the top, attach it, and put the finish on. Sounds easy, but it's still quite a bit of work left to do. So next time I'll be starting the drawers.